Richard.
How are you feeling today?
Oh man, it's been a rough couple days. Been a rough
Yeah,
couple days.
I feel similar, but for no particular reason. I feel kind of demotivated. I don't know if I imagine you have some reasons for why you're feeling.
I mean, my guess is that I've been on overdrive for the last little while, not sleeping the greatest, and then it throws off your serotonin levels. But I don't know. Could also be because I'm back in Ottawa.
Yeah, it's tough. Some environments are definitely not very exciting or inspiring, and I always feel like in a slump if there isn't if I don't feel like stuff is going on that's interesting around me.
Yeah, yeah. Like I have lots to do. It's just no motivation to do it. It's like I'm hitting a brick wall. Nothing like normally doing tasks or getting stuff done brings me some sort of sense of accomplishment or joy, yet there's no desire to do anything. I was going to go for a motorcycle ride today to visit my buddy Ben, who's chilling on a campsite, and I couldn't even get out the door, man. I was trying to fix so I have a plug-in so I can charge my phone while I ride. That's not working for no apparent reason. I mean, the light's on. I checked the connectors to the battery. Everything should work. Fuse is good. Everything's good. Yet it won't charge my phone. I'm just like, fuck it. Too much of an ass pain. Don't want to deal with a half-dead phone while I'm out in the countryside. And I just didn't want to leave. And I love riding.
Yeah.
So straight up, it's depression. I'm just going to call it what it is. And it's just ridiculous how it comes out of the woodworks and just shuts everything down. So
Yeah, I get the same thing. Yeah, I guess maybe temporary depression, like mild depression. That's definitely what I feel off and on. And yeah, it's weird. It's like for sometimes I'll do any activity, I'll feel very excited, and then sometimes I just cannot pick something that is engaging.
yeah,
Maybe I feel like perhaps with my brain, it's possible to fall back on meditation, and because I always feel bad, I feel increasingly worse if if several days go by and I don't accomplish anything. But maybe I can convince myself that it's valuable just to meditate and think about nothing for a couple days to try to reset or something, and then not continuously feel worse because I've been going longer and longer without doing an actual activity or something.
yeah. I find that watching The Witcher, and I just watching some Black Mirror, and letting my mind kind of escape and go into fantasy land. That kind of
Right.
helped provide a bit of release because it's really I think it's just current day reality that's kind of dragging me down a little bit. I mean, that's my theory because I feel better now. I want to do stuff now that it's 8 p.m. and we're going to be done talking 8:39 and I have to go to bed. So of course I want to do stuff now. But I also realized too that I do believe part of the issue is the sleep hasn't been good. And so without good sleep, it's just everything could crumble.
I guess yeah, everything's got to be connected. I guess because we can't force good sleep, so it's all. I guess that's sleep is related to the diet, is related to the fitness, and so then it's not like we can start with sleep and solve everything. I feel like we have to do all the other things to make sleep work.
Mm-hmm.
It's so many. Yeah, it feels though. I wish that it was easier. That the default was that everything was kind of in balance. Instead, I always feel like there's so many things I have to keep in balance, and every time I let my guard down, some different food or piece of entertainment or something is trying to like convince me that the balance is off, and then like you got to like fight to like convince yourself that you can do all these different things that we need to do to like keep ourselves like happy or something, or motivated.
Well, it's just like entropy, right? It's our Murphy's Law or whatever they call it. It's just with the passage of time, things become more chaotic, and you have to put energy in to maintain it. So it seems to be the same thing with our bodies. Like we need to constantly maintain it with sleep and eating and exercise, like physical activity every day, which I know I should be doing. I haven't done it. And then also like there's the social aspect. It's like that's part of our requirement too. Like to we need to fill our social tank. And some people see it as like, when their social tank gets depleted. How I see it is that we have a social tank, an exercise tank, a sleep tank, a food tank, and we all have to put energy and effort into all the tanks. And when we run low, well, our body goes into like survival mode, or there's cortisol that's released. Because like even like if we're not active, that puts stress on the body in ways that a lot of us don't even realize. Extra stress on, it's like by like sitting for prolonged periods of time, my body hurts. Like I have injuries, like my back and shoulders, everything hurts. So like that's putting stress on the body in a way. Without physical activity, I'm finding that my energy levels are lower and I make poor food choices and I don't sleep as well. And so all the tanks are connected in a way, and they all need to be filled up and they all have to be maintained. And it annoys the fucking shit out of me, man, because it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of effort.
Yeah, I was thinking recently that like originally when like before we had any conveniences given to us by society, it's almost like our days were filled, like our days were filled with like hunting, and in order to eat we had to hunt, and in order to hunt we had to do physical activity, and that made us tired, and so we would sleep when we're tired, and we'd sleep because the sun went away and there was no light, and it was like just by existing we were kind of kept in a balance by like we actually felt hungry, which caused us to get the motivation from hunger to go get food, and the physical exertion of getting the food made us tired, and like it seemed like the balance was very like forced. But today we have so much stuff for free, like we can have light whenever we want it, we can have food all the time. We can just go days without doing any physical activity, and unless we like pay to go to the gym and then bring ourselves there and like just do exercises that have no practical value, that's the only way to like actually make ourselves tired enough to like be tired. And only if we like constantly refuse food will we ever feel hungry and then feel motivation to like get food. But even then it's not that hard to get it. I just feel like it's almost kind of robs us of the ability to just like do things for any practical reason. The fact that we have so many like immediate like comforts all around us that are actually like really hard to get rid of. Like just trying to like get get rid of food, get rid of like these conveniences, like the transportation that brings us around and everything. And to get rid of like the light that's always on. Like we have to turn all the lights off constantly and stop using our phone consciously. Like none of it will go away unless we like force it, use energy to like get rid of it. It feels like we're kind of being like robbed of something like our own humanity by like all the things that we get for free, and that we like have that are forced on us for free, kind of almost just the
Yeah.
convenience. Yeah,
Well, the idea was is that we have everything automated and simplified to free us to do other stuff, to free us up to contribute to the economy by working some sort of 9 to 5 job. So that's it. So there you go. So the idea is to free us from nature and the basic requirements to survive in order for us to be part of the machine, to be plugged in. So that's what's happened.
It does
And
feel I guess the machine is so like self-referential these days. Like so many jobs are in support of other jobs. It would be nice if we could just do the basics, like just everybody work in the food industry or the power industry, and then that's basically it. Like then we could just the access after that would just be like I don't know. Instead of we seem to like invent jobs as fast as we automate them somehow.
yeah, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to learn I'm trying to learn the roots. I want to know how to get my own food. All right, I want to get back to doing moderate physical activity every day to survive.
Yeah.
I want to eliminate the 9 to 5 and contributing to making someone else rich and learning how to survive on my own off the grid away from government interference.
Yeah,
Because
it
sorry?
sounds. Yeah, I think it is quite a challenge. I think to get off the grid. Like I feel like the grid is so large and pervasive these days that I feel like it is challenging to get away from like get somewhere where like there isn't high speed internet and isn't like plumbing and power grid and all these things. It's hard to like find a place like that where because then you still need like permission to use like a river or something or like you need like to grow your own food but be part of some kind of like it just feels like very challenging to push away all the stuff that society keeps like giving us and like get away from roads and cars and all these things.
Yeah. Yeah, like you have to register your pet. Like, oh my God. So, like for me, trying to go back to BC, that's because I don't like the cold. Like the cold is just, I mean, you could have a greenhouse and maybe survive that way. And maybe one day that's in the cards for me where I figure out what's going on with my circulation and not freeze when I'm in the cold and learn how to hunt in the winter and learn how to preserve food. That could be like the advanced extreme step. I don't think I'll like it though. I like green, I like life. So going back to BC, I think is a step in the right direction because even though the days get shorter in the wintertime, at least it's still green and lush and there's still animals around, right? The thing is, to go back to BC, there's still government interference. Like I said, you got to register your pet still, for instance. And if you own land, you pay property tax and yada, 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 right? Like you're still connected to people.
Yeah.
It's just, if you can get land there, there's an opportunity to be able to do your own stuff. I mean, just like there is in Ontario, but again, circling back to the winter, like there's a limited amount of time where you can actually do stuff, at least in my mind. So, yeah, I'm taking steps to go figure out the routes. And it's not that I'm afraid, it's just, it's weird because I see that it's cost prohibitive to be able to have land relatively close to civilization in a nice area, especially in BC. It's cost prohibitive. Some places I'm looking at like $900,000 just for the land. Crazy. It's just madness,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, because it immediately it's like you then have to like pay back the loan, which means you have to do some kind of labor, not just for yourself, but like perhaps enough farming or renting or Airbnb or like working a job to like pay off the debt of the land. But then you become sort of trapped in the system again where you have to work to pay off some kind of thing from the start.
That's
There's no way
exactly
to
it.
like exit. Yeah.
And it's like the cost of land, the cost of houses are set up that way where it forces you to be a part of the machine. Like, where else are you going to live?
Mm.
You can't. You are dependent on civilization unless you can get land, unless you can use someone else's land. You're dependent. And I hate that. I hate the fact that so perhaps there's crown land and things like that if you truly want to go full remote. But I'm sure they're still going to find a way to stick their nose in your business. There's no free land. Everything's owned by a country, and the country has their rules. It's like you can't just fend for yourself. You want to grab a piece of land in the middle of nowhere, they're still going to come after the property tax. They're still going to want you to register. They're still going to want you to be accountable. Like, it's just so hard to break away.
I was wondering about that, where like stuff like electricity and plumbing is like a utility, and so there's like a partially government owned or like, the government will ensure that like these big electricity companies, for example, are providing like a fair price and all that stuff, and maybe they subsidize it a bit. But then also like just the ability to like have shelter, like live inside of a house, that's kind of like a utility also. So I wonder why the government does not ensure like a fair price and competition for like just the ability to have a house itself. Like once you get into a house, they start looking at like, like electricity and plumbing and all these things. But I feel like it sort of should be like everyone inside of a country should have the ability, like, because for example, the government will push for like health insurance. Like the government competes, at least in in America as well. You can buy like health insurance kind of through the government, and they sort of try to regulate that and get the cost down and make sure everyone can afford like health insurance. But I wish that the government would just kind of like also do housing in some way where like anyone who wants to just purchase the minimum like unit of housing and just have that as their basic thing, and and minimum wage would be like enough to accumulate savings, have if you made use of like the government housing, and it would just, and then like you could store like a container of stuff in the government housing, and then you could just go off and like you'd have like a central base, a place to get mail or whatever, and then you could just kind of go and backpack and camp and just have like a foothold somewhere, as small as it might be or something. I wonder why we can't, there's no pressure like move in that direction. Like it seems very clear that like everybody needs a place to live. Just figure out a way to like get everyone the minimum thing, and then we can all just, with our income, we can camp and whatever. And but the problem of this, like everyone's chasing after housing, and it takes like our entire lives to like assure it. And that's really the, just having a place we can fall back on and sleep at night is like kind of the minimum thing we need, because we're not even allowed to just like, I feel like it's not really, you can't just like, like we're saying, like you just can't go find free land. Like I feel there's a large enough population that the government should kind of say like, every citizen gets to use a little bit of land just to sleep on, instead of having to like every day you wake up and work just to assure next month's rent, or else like that's this minimum thing you have to juggle. It's weird that we don't have anybody talking about like just a way to allow people to make use of these minimum wage salaries to then secure shelter, because that seems to be like the first thing that people would need, I assume. I don't know.
It is in the survival situation. The shelter is the first thing that you build. Shelter, water, food. So shelter is the first thing we need. And and yet the mortgages are so much that it's going to take our entire lives to pay it off with the salaries that we make now. Like when you think of
and that seems linked to like medical stuff too, like because like we have to work so hard in jobs that are not like ergonomic to then pay off the housing, that we have these like medical, like stress, anxiety, weight gain, like all these medical problems linked to just pushing ourselves to work so hard to pay off the housing, which like if we just could have a place to sleep at night, we could, decide to just gives ourselves a break every once in a while from work and just still have a place to live inside of, like a house, instead of just always, having to sort of meet the demands of whatever the employer sets.
Yeah. I think part of the solution is going full remote and not being like locked into a particular area where, let's say, the housing cost of living is ridiculous. So for instance, like Ottawa should be mostly remote. Like a lot of the jobs here with the military, like you don't need a physical presence. And like continuing to bring people in that, like I'm a major in 6 figures and I have debt right now. I actually have debt. So, and it's not that and I have the debt that I have because I've been spending a little bit. Normally I'm super frugal and mega conservative and a minimalist and I barely buy anything and the things I do are well thought out. And I took a trip to BC. Flight was covered. I stayed with a friend and I bought food and I had a rental vehicle. And just that cost alone put me in debt. It's like I should have went to an all-inclusive fucking resort for the debt that I'm in right now. Because it probably would have been cheaper than traveling to a province in this country. It is just mind-blowing that I make as much as I do, and yet I'm unable to get ahead financially doing that job alone. So now it forces me to look at other avenue, like income streams, when this job is a full-time job. And this should not be the case in my mind.
Yeah, because it seems like I feel that there's just been so much complexity added to the economy and society. Like, I feel like surely by now we have such good technology and farming like expertise that it shouldn't be a problem, even if the population is growing by a lot. It shouldn't be a problem to like get everyone food and get everyone like shelter and water. And then once everyone has like food, shelter, water, pretty much people entertain themselves. If you just put like people in a room together, they'll talk to each other, they'll socialize, they'll tell jokes. Like people will just entertain each other. Like they'll get bored sometimes, but then they'll invent their own games and like set their own goals. Like just walking in the forest is like entertainment. And so like this other, as soon as you have the basic needs met, the entertainment kind of just finds itself. But the fact that we keep like, in order to feel entertained, we need to be like playing a video game and watching like $1 million Marvel movie as like a minimum. And if we run out of those, then we immediately become bored and depressed because we've been so far removed from an ability to just entertain ourselves with nothing, just by like telling stories to each other, like about ourselves or bonding with other people. And that solves the problem of loneliness too, of just being around people and watching them. Like that makes us feel more complete and interested. But it's insane how many layers have been added on top of all this stuff, where like how many thousands of years have we figured out how to grow our own food and build like waterproof shelters, and still in like 2023 it's like worse than ever in terms of just trying to find healthy food and rent a piece of shelter. I can't believe like how bad, how much worse the basic needs have gotten, like how much farther removed we are from just sitting in a room and talking to other people. Like it's so hard to arrange that these days.
And then there's also like the family piece too. So like folks are encouraged to be individuals and to, get away from the family and have their own flat and start their own families and stuff. But it's like, when you really think about it, it's like family is what makes us strong.
Yeah.
And yet, like my family, if I can even call it that, it's divided and isolated and very sick, very mentally ill. And like they can't come together because there's just too much bad blood. and that happened because of the war, and the grandfather serving and having PTSD and not being taken care of, and like the effects from that have destroyed the family and continues to do damage to the family. And so like my cousins are having kids and broken like single parents, or like they're picking bad partners. My uncles did it too, and now my cousins are doing it. And so now it's like we've fallen from having and owning a home, and we still my aunt still kind of has a place right now, and I don't know what the mortgage is like, and I have an idea. Based on what she told me, the debt's pretty high. I mean, but we had a house that was paid off pretty much. We had a family home that was paid off. And then now it's like we've incurred all this debt because of just mismanagement of funds or whatever. And we went from what I would consider high middle class during the wartime to middle class to we have a place, but we really don't own it. Most of it's mortgaged out. And I don't even know how my aunt's keeping afloat, to be honest. So, I mean, at any point in time, I mean, if she has to renew the mortgage or interest rates keep going up, that house could be up for foreclosure. People probably won't even get, if she doesn't get a full-time job, or right, like she's trying to run around.
It's very interesting that like if we had like immediate feedback, then like if people were like disassembling part of their shelter, then they would immediately like notice that. But if they're just like, quote unquote, like mortgaging out like part of their house, that the house still provides like shelter. And it's almost like a trick where like humans don't have like this long-term sense to know that they're sort of like they're tacking on all these problems which can't be like directly sensed, until they all sort of come to pass 10 or 20 years later, like in the future. There isn't like we're able to continue to survive by making like a lot of mistakes in life, and it's almost like a disservice to us that can happen, where we just can tack on so many mistakes and not realize it until it's like too late. But even then, there's no way to just like reset or go back to the basics. Like we're caught in this like web of like debt and loans and mortgages and like all these things that are connected, and there's like a credit score, and like it's so hard to just like drop it all and go back to like farming, and like you still, the debt still follows you or something. Like it's weird. Yeah, it's like for generations we have these like tangled webs of stuff. It would be nice if there was just like, if you could just sort of like, like opt out, go to a place, get a shelter, a minimum wage, some food, meet some people there, and then like just start like a little tribe, a little community, start getting to know people, and just almost like have like a new life without all these things following us forever, where we just cannot ever get stuff back to a regular neutral basis.
Yeah, but we're thinking a certain way, and finding like-minded people that genuinely want to do what it is we're talking about. I mean, I think that's a rare breed. I think people like easy, and there's also a lot of greed in people as well. So, I mean, I have trust issues for very good reasons. I've been burned a lot in my life. I invest heavily in my friendships, but I'm starting to find that, there's just like stocks and bonds. I mean, like there's good ones or good companies, and then there's not so good companies. And it's like with people, you put all your energy in, it seems promising, and then all of a sudden they just crash and you get zero return, and you just gotta walk away. I find people are unpredictable. I'm starting to wonder if overall, in general, actually, they're just bad investments. And
that makes sense. Like the analogy of investment seems good.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder, like, because the wisdom that life has taught me is that you need to diversify. diversify. Like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I mean, financially, that's one thing. And they don't just go pure housing. Also look at stocks and bonds. Learn how to be your own banker with infinite banking, things like that. Beat the banks, beat the interest rates if you can. It takes wealth to do that, though. There's an entry barrier. Also with friendships, right? I mean, like if you put all your friends, all your energy into a select few people, when they decide to fuck off or disrespect you and, you know, trivialize your time, you're going to feel that impact a lot more than if you were spread between a lot of people and just very casual. And like I'm finding, no offense to you, or like I do have some good long lasting friendships, and I consider you one of them. So I appreciate you and I trust you. But there's no but. I mean, like that's end of sentence. There are a lot of people though who, you know, I've invested a lot of time into, and they just turn nasty over time. They no longer reciprocate. They no longer respond. They no longer try, despite a very good history. And that's all very frustrating, and it's a waste of energy. It's a waste of time, I find. I mean, you think like, oh, the good moments that you had were good because you shared that time together. I suppose. But you can have that with acquaintances. You can just meet randoms and have a good time. When you have those heart-to-heart conversations, when you show up for them, when you travel 4 or 5 hours to make sure that they're okay, and you know, help them build a deck or renovate their house, or when you go above and beyond for people, that's when you're heavily invested. You figure that would help solidify the relationship. But what I'm finding is you do that for people, when they turn around and disrespect you, or when they betray you. And it's not if, it's when. I find it's all bound to happen eventually. It hurts so much more when you put all that time and energy into them. So if you spread yourself and you have acquaintances, and yeah, if they do turn into deeper friendships where you can share stuff, that's great. But being mindful of the fact that like you need to have multiple friends, and also if you're venting, you can't just vent to the same person all the time. It's going to wear them down. They're going to see you as negative. They're going to see you as hopeless, and they're going to get tired. I think we only have so much empathy. But if you spread your venting between all of your decent friends that listen to you, or you share your goals and your dreams with all these different people, well, let's say if it's the negative, they're just going to be like, oh, well, Lex bitching for 5 minutes, whatever, it's nothing. But if I do that for to 20 people, that's a lot of venting. I feel good. It doesn't do any damage to the friendships. If I share my dreams and aspirations with 20 people, some of them might be like, oh, that's cool. Others might actually offer some experience, some insight, right? So I'm just finding overall, I've been burned too many times investing into certain relationships, partners, for instance. I got 3.5 years with one person for them to just abandon me after literally putting my life at risk for them several times. And when I think about that, I mean, it just sucks. So then it makes me question about monogamy and partnerships. Do you go all in with somebody? Because for me, that seems to go against the wisdom that life has taught me. But also at the same time, polygamy is very messy. Can be very messy. If you ask them, they'll say that well, communication is super important for a monogamous relationship. For a polygamous relationship, it's even more important. It's super important. And even still, in a lot of those relationships, I was part of these conversations, so I'm not talking in my ass here. There's a primary. So even in these relationships, there's a primary partner, especially if you want to have kids. And so you're putting all this energy into this partner, and then it's kind of again, it's going against that wisdom. because they could just pick up and go, fuck off, and take the kid. So it's like, is marrying somebody and having kids, does it make sense? Considering marriage is no longer what it was. It's no
Yeah, it
longer
seems everything seems kind of like originally like everyone was like in the same place in the forest, I assume, and like it's like if whoever was around, like whoever we ended up spending time with was like physically close to us, and there wasn't like a way that they could like get on a plane and travel 1,000 miles, like the tribe would just that was physically around each other would just happen to be around each other for quite some time. And I feel like then now in this era where like people can just kind of like hop between cities, but at the same time we can like talk with whoever we want in the world and still feel like we're talking with them on a regular basis, but they're like physically not near us. I feel like that messes with our instincts where like we feel like we're investing time in somebody, but we could be like investing in like there aren't the guarantees that there were before. Like there aren't the guarantees that like contributed to our evolution where like people that we spoke with or whatever were physically near us and were going to be physically near us like forever and stuff like that. I feel like the fact that people can like switch around and be in totally different places and but that we can still communicate with them, I feel like that makes it like very hard to do this calculus of like what is an investment and which people which people matter, the ones that are physically close to us or the ones we talk to, or like because we don't even get the full story. Like we don't see them just by chance every day, like only if we arrange it. And so if they don't like make room in their schedule, then there's no chance meetings or something like that. It feels like everything is. And then yeah, like I don't know, marriage feels a bit like that as well, where it's not like some kind of physical proximity guarantee. It's like people can just jump to different cities all the time, and that makes it really hard to like you both just can't work the same farm or something. Like it's like which companies are hiring, which cities do they want. I guess remote work actually would solve some of that as well. People could just get whatever job they want and stay wherever they wanted, and there wouldn't be like this tension pulling people to different places or something.
Mm-hmm. I think if you have a family, remote work is great.
Yeah, it seems.
I think it's a blessing. I think if you have the setup for it, and you can, like for my job, I don't need to put in a whole bunch of hours. I just check emails and do the occasional task, and I'm done. And I can do that whenever. So my whole day is not occupied with work. I'm full remote now, by the way. So it was part of my. It's part of my plan in order to transition out of the military. Go full remote to get away from Ottawa to be with family.
I guess that could be challenging. Like there's a challenge of like if there was like a busy day at work and you had a bunch of kids like around and stuff, that would be the challenge, is like how do you get like you have to have some arrangement for like a private room or an office or a place you can go, like a cafe with Wi-Fi. There needs to be some kind of way you can if you do need to get something done that you can like sort of get away. Yeah.
Why would the kids be around? I mean, usually they go to school, right? But also, you could just start early. You could start early in the morning as well if you needed to. There's workarounds.
Flexible. Yeah, it's true. Like flexible hours. Yeah, I guess remote work with flexible hours is important because then there's always like people trying to like take the kids to school and then get back for like some. But if they could just flex their hours, then that solves some of it. Yeah.
I find it's just more cost effective. When I was going into work 3 days a week, I was like, it's $7 each way. Let's say $15 ish. $45 a week just to go to work. Then it's $30 for parking.
Yeah. The time and the money. Yeah.
Then there's the hour commute to and from. So total round trip is an hour. But then when I park, then I have to walk quite the distance in order to get into work. So let's say you just tack on 15 minutes for walking and changing in uniforms. Let's make that 25 minutes. So you start doing the math. It's almost an hour from when I step outside my place to when I'm sitting down in the office. and an hour to get back. It's 2 hours wasted traveling plus $15 plus parking. So it's $1 a day. So it's say $16 a day. But actually, it's more because it's only 3 times I go to work. So if I spread that out, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're paying money and you're putting all this energy in just to show up. And then you got all these people who waste your time with small talk and posing questions they wouldn't ask otherwise unless you were there. And I think it's a waste. I don't think it's productive.
Yeah, it's kind of bundled in a little bit with like community. Like if we don't if we don't get like face to face time with people during work, we have to find it somewhere else. And that I think that's where society is failing right now is like if like I found for myself there aren't a lot of places that you can just go and meet people in a safe space other than the office, which those things should be kind of decoupled. Like I should be able to get my social need filled just by like meeting people in society that are strangers rather than like having to go to the office just to feel not lonely or something. And but like it's annoying that other than like clubs with super loud music, which I think exist somewhere, there isn't a lot of like places where you can just meet like fun, creative people doing some activity whenever you want in a safe way. Like, doesn't seem like there's many avenues for that.
Well, if you find a community like from the burner community, there's like smaller groups, for instance, and they're usually pretty fun people. They're not all great. They tend to mostly, on average, be accepting, but yeah, they're not all great. But like those are the types. Like if you find a community, you find a group of people that are open-minded, that don't want to talk about work, that don't want to talk about the society, and that kind of just want to chill and be at the moment. Those people are out there.
Yeah.
It's just gotta find them.
Yeah, I found some like online communities. There's now a community of game developers that like they meet in person every once in a while, but it's like back in Seattle where I used to live. If I move back there, I might start hanging out with that community again. I feel like that's the one that I know of. I had a
Nice.
question actually. What like the times that I feel the most connected to like this basic idea of life that we've been talking about is when I'm like if I'm running like multi-day races. Like I went to Yosemite like 2 weeks ago and like just the idea of like camping. It was a 4-day trip and we camped each day, and during the day we would run. And so like I would eat food because I was running, and so I would get hungry, and I would drink water because I was thirsty, and then I would be tired, so I would sleep well. And then I would when I was in camp, like we didn't really have cell phone bars, so I would just like talk to the people, and that was fun. So it was like by paying to like go on this like 4-day trip, I was forced to like just talk with people and eat food and sleep, and it made me feel very like balanced and sort of true to like my human nature. I wonder, do you get that same feeling like if you're on like a backpacking trip, the idea of like since you're walking every day, like you get to feel and use your muscles, and it's all practically useful because you're propelling yourself forward, and like then you eat because you're hungry and you sleep because you're tired, and like the other people on the trip maybe like you talk to them because there's nothing else to do, and that's fulfilling. Do you feel like all those things like on the trips you do or whatever sort of stuff that you do?
Yeah, I would say it's very primal. It's after doing that trip and hiking some pretty good distances on incredibly tough terrain that you wouldn't get in most places in Canada. Like, we have good times. We just are taking joy in just playing cards together. When we eat our meals, it's to fuel our bodies for what we just did, and because of what we just did, and for what's to come. And we sleep when the sun goes down, which is like around 9 o'clock, and we wake up when the sun comes up, when the birds start chirping before 5. It's absolutely ideal.
Yeah.
And it kind of models how we would be in nature and how our bodies evolved.
Yeah, I feel I would like to get more like connected with that stuff. I feel like what's fun for me is the extra push of like some kind of guided like I like to have some kind of guide to tell me like where to go and how far to go because that I guess that kind of simulates for me a little bit like this idea that like if you went out hunting or something and you were running around you wouldn't really know like you can't really decide like when to call it like it's sort of like there's a set distance that and a route and stuff that like you sort of have to someone else is dictating like in the maybe the animal you're hunting or the guide that's telling you like about the trip. So I like
Mm-hmm.
that aspect of it too. I like someone like I like to feel like there's sort of like a goal I have to accomplish and the way to do it is like physical, put in physical effort and uh but I would like to be more connected with like that kind of stuff. Like it's just yeah, I guess the challenge then just becomes like getting time off work. But now I feel like uh whenever I have the opportunity to go on one of those trips, I will just take like like leave without pay if necessary or use my actual leave if I have enough to
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like I just like to now spend time like living life directly without any comforts or like minimized comforts or something.
Well, you can still be very comfortable in the bush. It doesn't take much. Like for
Yeah,
instance,
it's surprising how little it takes actually to
I
feel
got this
comfortable.
$4 rainbow kind of like the noodles you use to swim.
Oh yeah.
It's made out of that material, but it's like I don't know how many, maybe 10 inches by 10 inches with a little tiny built-in handle and the sponge, and it's like colors of the rainbow, and it's ultra lightweight, weighs like nothing. Like you'll even notice it. And this thing, man, like I put it down on wood, put it down on water. Like I sat down on this on middle of a stream with a bit of a curve slash waterfall. I put this thing down because the water wasn't like super strong. It was very shallow, and I just sat down on this on the edge of this river because it's waterproof as well, right? So I mean,
Hmm.
and that thing, $4, no weight, just made the trip so much more comfortable.
Right.
Just so it doesn't take much to be comfortable out there. And like if we are fit, strong, and we know how to take care of ourselves, and we have like decent gear like merino wool, we don't need to have a lot of stuff. Stuff we have won't stink, and then we're capable of going extreme distances or dealing with rough terrain. It decreases our chance of injury as well if we're fit. I mean, if we are fit and we are strong, I think being in nature is also easier. It can be more comfortable.
Yeah, I feel like
This might,
just like the more time we spend in nature, we just get we get more flexibility and we get more strength and stuff like that. It's like nature like provides us with the workout routine just by us being there. Yeah, I wonder a bit like when I'm sitting here at my computer, like in the middle of the city, I wonder like, is there anything I can do like in the way of like making a video game that allows me to just like escape to this idea of the woods for a while? Like I feel like a lot of games have tapped into it, like where like like Minecraft and a couple other games, when you start the game, you're just kind of chopping trees, and like when you go to the forest, that's kind of like you're around trees, there's water, and I feel like starting a game like in the forest and chopping trees to sort of like as like the activity, and not a lot of games need you to like drink water, but I feel like that could be interesting. And I wonder about like making a game that just kind of gives one the experience of just being like in the woods, and the fact if I made it like multiplayer too, then all of a sudden it's like you could have like four friends meet up on Discord and just play this game that is just nothing really going on except for like just being in the woods. There's trees there. You every once in a while you drink water or something. You're just walking around talking, and maybe there is like a start and a finish to each day of the game. Like you hike a certain route or something, and I wonder if that is able to like provide enough things that people would feel like they need less. Like they wouldn't need to like snack on junk foods or watch like a movie. They could just sort of do this one thing. But I don't know. Yeah, it's I've yet to figure out if what's the difference between like that sort of playing a video game like that, like a chill video game, and going out into the real woods. I guess like yeah, it's hard to it's a hard challenge to sort of like meld the two together.
That'd be neat. Like if you actually had to drink water, take a piss, take a shit in the game.
Yeah, it's hard to get it so that like because in real life we have these like senses, like we feel thirst, but in a game you'd have to like tell the player that they feel thirsty, and they wouldn't necessarily like believe that, and you could die in the game. Like like I feel like it's almost like we won't really die in real life because if worst comes to worst, we'll do what we need to do to like get the water. But in the game, it would be like too easy to just like let yourself die without feeling anything. And so I feel like
Mm-hmm.
you need to have like an alternate system, like maybe some you need to sort of have like you need to like make the game more fun somehow. Like if you drink water at a regular interval, then the game just like works better or something, or your character like walks like weirdly slow if you don't drink water, and so you just learn like it's annoying to walk slow, and so you drink the water to walk faster, and you just get into this like positive reinforcement of like I like drinking water because it makes the game feel better or something like that. But there's a lot of I feel like I need to like do a lot of work to figure out like how do you build these systems so they just feel very natural and peaceful.
Yeah, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a fun problem though, because like certainly like I can't always get access to the woods and stuff like that, but if there was like just a little simple game on the internet, I would have access to that like all the time, and if that could just help me feel more balanced, then that's pretty interesting. Because that's a way you could safely meet strangers as well. Like if you just walking through the woods, you just met other people in this game, and if somehow like there's this whole question of like moderation and making sure there isn't like troll people in the game, but if it was just like talking to someone over the internet, that's pretty safe. And if you just met them, you felt like you sort of met them in the forest, and you help them like they're building a little cabin or something, and you help them like build that, and it's kind of interesting to think like how far could that go. I feel like but also I feel like it's important to not like other companies, they have to pack their games with like features because they have to make like a bunch of money or make back the development cost. But if I could build like a super simple game that has like no cost to me, then I wouldn't have to ever add features or put advertisements or charge money or sell skins. Like I would just have just the game is there and people can play it, just like the woods is there and you could just go to the woods. But even now, like it's funny how we've monetized the woods. Like to get to a national park, you have to like pay an entry fee and have a permit and like get a parking spot and like have a permit for a campsite. There's all these like hoops you have to jump through to visit the actual woods, but I could actually make the woods free again by like building it in a digital way and just giving people like a website they can visit to go to the woods.
Virtual reality.
Yeah, that's what I wonder too. Like VR will give us this ability to feel much more immersed in something like the woods. And so maybe that is even another step. If everyone just had a VR headset, you could build the actual woods in VR and then whenever you want, sort of just hang out in a campsite or something.
Well, man, it's gonna happen soon, whether or not you do it. Probably gonna
Yeah,
be like sci-fi fantasy
I hope
though.
so. Yeah, I'm interested. I hope that stuff like happens soon and does go in the right direction. It would be fun for me to just take part in it. And then once they release like the ability, like simple tools to build your own environment, it would be fun to try to make something. Well, that was a fun conversation today.
You know,
We can all go sleep.
yeah, no, I'm back on the wagon, and I'm just thinking like all these things I want to do, but I should prioritize sleep and wake up and go for a run. And that's what I'm going to do, because that's called discipline, and discipline is needed.
That's good. Yeah, it's tough to like, like you could burn like 3 hours just doing stuff and cut into your sleep, but it's powerful to be able to resist that and just do what you need.
Yeah, I think so. And when you do it, it becomes a habit. It's just everybody wants to stay up late. Everybody wants to, go and eat shit food and drink beer. Like that's what people do for a good time because they release. And I'm finding that like I'm finding like for instance this burner group, right? They come together to release. And what I want is I want a community that comes together to grow, to build something. I want to build something. So maybe I should join a gardening group or something like that, where I'm like learning a skill, but I'm also like contributing to something. But I don't want to just grow food for anybody. I want to grow food for myself as well, right? So
yeah.
So I'm finding like people come together, they hang out because they want to release, eat the chips, eat the bad stuff, stay up late, break some rules, get away from the structure. So it'd be cool if I could have like those outings that like end at a good time, that you can still have some fun, some growth, but you don't need to like break the bank at a bar, buy drinks there, or you don't need to stay up to 12 in the morning and take a sleep debt, right? Like you just have a good time and end it at a decent time.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to. Hey.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, that like people are always like burning a lot of energy when they're together. It's hard to like keep your own schedule, like keep you the schedule that's beneficial for you, like with a group of people. There's like a fear of missing out if you go to bed early or something.
Yeah, like my other buddy Justin there, hanging out with him. He wants to get up at 5 in the morning to walk his dog, and so he's starting to shut her down by 9. So he has like we'll have a meal together. So I was hanging out at his place in BC. We had a meal together. We started watching a movie about 7:30, and by the time the movie was over, it was like, hey, time to hit the hay. We're both tired. Yeah, he had a bunch of carbs. Balanced meal. We were snacking a little bit, but nothing too bad. And that's what I'm talking about. I don't know if that's what older people do. Like, if that's once you start getting into being married with kids, if that's the standard or what. But if that is, then, sign me up because it makes sense.
Yeah.
I can't keep up with kids. Like, going out and partying until I drop, that's not smart to me. Anyway, man, I appreciate the chat, and how about we aim for next Tuesday?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Catch you later.
See you.